Hello, this is Lyndon from Milesight's team. It's great pleasure to be here to have you this training, and I hope from today's training to help you a better understanding of Milesight product, especially about real applications. And today's training will including different parts. Including the IP camera and smart tools. And tomorrow they will have another training, which will have MAR, CMS, and APPs. And now we will begin today's training, the IP cameras and the smart tools, the first part, okay? And before introducing the IP cameras, here I want to show you some tools, the smart tools. This is Milesight software. A very beautiful tools which will really help you, especially before the camera installation. These tools support both camera and MAR and support some batch setting features. For example, batch setting for network video parameters or the online upgrades. All can realize like one-click batch setting, and also have a calculator features. Okay, so this is some snapshot of the smart tools, and today I will pay more attention and pay more times in the real applications. So all these smart tool we can see on this. This is the Milesight smart tool, including the IP tools, MAR tools, and calculators. For IP tools, right now I'm in my company, so you can see there are a lot of cameras. But in fact, for example, you are installer, you can check because by default, you know, there are many cameras and without activation. So with these tools, you can just select all, like activate all of them. And you can set a start IP and then modify just by one click to have all the cameras activated and IP modified. And similar, you can like export device list to specific files or some settings in basically every settings like video, audio, system, user, and OSD, network, fisheye, advanced, basically all interfaces for the camera. And the preview. Usually we have such experience. For example, if you have many cameras and also IP and network, everything just modified, but you don't know which one is which one. So you can use these tools to have a quick preview to tell which one is which one. Hello. And do some image settings like WDR, JLCD, LCD, and so on, and image configurations. And also these tools support online upgrades. You can use these tools to have batch settings like batch online upgrade, like select all, and you can download it online and directly upgrade. And similar, there is MAR tools. Basically, network settings, upgrade, and the status. For the MAR, you can check the status of the cameras which is connected to the MAR. And last column is about calculators. These tools could help you to calculate for the camera or the MAR or the disk. For example, for here, this is a calculator for camera. So firstly, you can add, for example, you can add like 2 MARs, Milesight MARs, and how many numbers, like here 22, and select the bitrate or the cameras, and then you can calculate how many cameras could handle and how many channels on this NVR. And similar, there is also calculators for NVR. For example, you can add cameras, like different bit rates, different pieces, and select the NVR and calculate. The calculator will provide the details of how many NVRs should be used in this project. And lastly, I think this is the most useful tools, like you can add the NVR, because in real projects we don't know specific times or space, especially for different camera settings. But with these tools, you can easily management it. For example, here I add 1, like 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, for example, and by the specific given disk space, for example, I have 16 terabytes disk, and I want to 24 hours each day. So you can calculate in these settings, the given space could record like 1 month, or 32 days. And similar, if you want record like 1 month, you can calculate how many terabyte of space you need to apply for this project. So this is really useful. So this is just a starter for before the IPC description. And in the first page, you can also see some advertisers. If you like, you can click. You can keep a very close contact with Milesight products. Directly click, and you will reach to our website. Okay, so this is the first part, the smart tool part. Then we'll go to today's IPC training. Some practical applications, including motion detection, VCA image enhancement, LPR, fisheye, and some other troubleshootings, for example, the network settings or the storage. Okay, now let's go to the first part, the motion detection. In fact, this is a very basic features of modern IP cameras. But with Milesight, we provide very rich building actions. For example, in the GIF in this PC, you can see we have the blinking. For example, this PTZ bullets, you can set an action for this motion detection, like blinking or zoom into the detected error, like this one. And in this part, I want to have you real operations to show the alarm actions, including the storage, like SD cards and NAS. In the NAS, I will share you some NAS information in the last slide. Okay? And FTP email alarm output, play audio, SIG phone, FTP notification, YLED, and the PDZ motion. I think I can have you. This camera is a mini PDZ bullet, so it has the most rich action interfaces. So log into the web page, you can see on advanced there is a line, and in first part is motion detection. So I will introduce one by one for the features, all these features. So firstly, enable motion detection, of course, and secondly, on with motion sales settings. Basically, this is for third-party integration. For example, in some on-view the on-view motion active cell settings, most of the time you can use it like normal, but in sometimes if you config in some third-party VMS, for example, if you doing like this, there's error selected, but in some other third-party VMS, the error selected may be like not effective. They may effective the other part, the inclusive parts. So you can select the compatible mode, but mostly it's normal. So just keep it default. And the second part is set the motion region. Very simple. You just take the area you want to have a line. Then the camera will just trigger. Now I select also there is a line. You can see a line logo on this part. And schedule settings. This is enabled by default, but make sure it's enabled because sometimes when you're checking, if this is not enabled, it might not effective. Okay. Okay. Now go to the action. Here we can see many actions. The first part is save into storage. In here, in Milesight, the storage means the SD card. Means the SD card and the NAS settings. SD card and NAS settings. And in the same time, real time, if you mount both NAS storage, both storage at the same time, the NAS will take a priority. For example, if you insert like SD card and then using NAS, then the camera will only record to NAS. So remember that. This is a simple tip. And you can select to record video or just snapshot or all at the same time. And in the last part, you can set how many sessions you want for the video record, like from 5 to 30 seconds. And for snapshots, you can select how many snapshots you want to take action, when there is a motion. And snapshot interval, how many seconds between the snapshots. The second one is FTP. FTP is similar, have the record and snapshot. Similar, you can see the video and snapshot here. Scores are and FTP and the email. You can set in the network for the email settings. So the camera will send the email, but only snapshot is available when there is a motion. And the external outputs, you can control the external outputs here. And here, you can select the external output times. Okay, Justin just asked, does these settings apply if the camera is on a VR? Yes, I will introduce in the PPT later, the third-party integration thing, integration in later parts, okay? And the audio action settings, because this PDZ bullet also have audio interfaces, so you can select like, for example, if there is action, you can select like to play this audio or to play this audio, or from the morning you may play this kind of audio, and in the afternoon time you can play a second kind of audio, and you can upload every kind of audio to the camera in the audio interfaces. You can see on audio file manager, you can upgrade to flash the camera flash or to the SD cards from these parts. The zip form. If you want to trigger a zip form, for example, you can connect a real zip form in this part. Connect. And then if there is a motion, the camera will directly call the zip phone to send the audio or the video or both at the same time, of course. And also HTTP notification. HTTP notification. This is a feature for third-party VMS integration. When there is action, you can directly send the notification URL, and maximum support 3 URL. And we can share it in troubleshooting. You can ask your distributors or Milesight support to have these troubleshootings, all today's troubleshooting file. Here, this is a troubleshooting about FTP notifications between Milesight camera and network optics. And because this action part is universal similar, I mean for the motion detection, for the VCA, or for the LPR. So this is basically for them all. Here, this is for VCA. The first part is for the VCA, and tech region entrance for an example. So how to set up HTTP notification between camera and the next setting, just like I mentioned. And you can see there is an example for this HTTP notification, like this one. This is the NX server and port, and do the specific like the source captain, and the motion key is like the caption contents. Input in here. A different VMS maybe have different URL. You can refer to the VMS specific VMS user manuals to find it. Check it like this, and inputs the infos in the annex like this. Do the actions as you like. Here we select the show text overlay. Okay. And then if there is a like motion detection or region entity or any kind of VCA, you can have the overlay here. And what's more, our application also support the LPR. Similar, you can select in the LPR. And by the way, we will have you a specific LPR troubleshooting in later slide. LPR settings. Now these are some settings for the LPR actions. And similar, do the same settings, and show text overlay. So if next time there is a car detected, it will just directly show on the screen like this one. You can contact your distributors or the Milesight support at milesight.com to have this kind of troubleshooting. Okay, back into the web page. So we also, for this model, we also have a PTZ actions, because this PTZ also have YLED, so you can control if there is a motion detection or VCA or like LPR, you can select to twinkle or always on to act like a threatened purpose. And where's the flash time when you do the LED on, and the YLED effective mode like always or like environments. Only the YLED can only working. For example, now it's 100% the light intense, and you can select when this light will be on. For example, here 70, because light is very bright, so not everyone like this blinking all the time. So you can select here if it's too bright, or if it's too dark, you can select not action. Only when the light is intense is very powerful, then the light will be working. You can set it here or customize from when to when. And last part is the PDZ motion. PDZ motion is a feature that allow the which is only available in PDZ models like PDZ bullets or PDZ dome or the speed dome. You can select like proportional zoom times, like if detected the how many zoom times to zoom into the detected areas, and after how long time the PDZ will just recover back to the original position. So this is some settings for the motion detection, but like I said, this is universal same, similar in all the VCAs, and like LPR. Okay, let's go back into the PowerPoint. So just like you asked, there is now I will introduce the third-party integration. There are two types of the integration. The type A is like directly configuration, which means the settings are synchronized at the same time. For example, the Hikvision or UniView NVR. For example, you can select the error or do the actions here, infection time and error. This is synchronized. You can configure from the NVR side, and these settings will be just synchronized into the camera. So this is type A, which have a better compatibilities. And the second type is not support in backend. For example, Dahua NVR. It is really because Dahua NVR is different. If you go into the NVR, you can see the interface is different, and you can have the settings, but settings may not take effective in the camera side. In this situation, you can directly go to the camera settings, like this one, enable and select error, save, and then this action, this motion detection will take effective in the Dahua NVR, which means once you enable this function in camera side, and once the NVR, the backend side, this function is enabled, it will just take effective. So this is the first part, the motion detection part. And the second one is Milesight VCA. Like in the slide, you can see there are totally 10 kinds of VCA, including region agency, blah, blah, blah. Here we can see the details with a video, how these features working. And then I will introduce some tips, like installation tips, like setting tips laterly. Video is shooting from our office. This is temper alarm. Temper alarm including the temper, for example, some temptings, some images like this block the image or the unfocus. If the camera is unfocused, it will also alarm on the camera. So this temper including like things change or the image block or the unfocus. Very useful feature. Okay, Justin. Okay, I just lower the voice on video. I'll repeat again. The temper alarm including the things change. Like you can see the things change or the block, like something broke or the block or the unfocus. So this temper alarm is very useful. You can enable it as a default from personally suggestion. Very useful. And line closing, I'll introduce how to set this line closing to have it a better effective, to have a more accurate data. You can select different times or both times, or you can set different direction or both directions to action at the same time. And loitering, you can set a specific time, how long these people's loitering in this area, and then trigger an action. And this feature is quite useful because it can track the human. And what's more important, you can see there is a check. Since we have a new audience, and you can have a check in the human, and this is very useful. I will introduce later. This is useful when do like people counting or line closing. You can judge by this one, the human detection. And people counting. You can set in and out directions to calculate the people, and you can set like auto export or auto clear the numbers every day or every week. I'll show you later in real web page. This object left, if some object left like in specific time, then the camera will trigger the alarm. All object removed for specific time, then the camera will just alarm. Okay, since this is some introducing about the VCA, so then the next one is how to configuration. Here I will take an example by people counting. In the VCA, in the setting page, you can see there is a VCA, and right now there are totally 10 kinds. 10 kinds of VCA. The object left and remove, we just apply it in the same page. Totally is 10 kinds of VCA. So the first question is how many VCA can be enabled at the same time? We suggest not larger than 3, but in totally in testing environments we have more like 5 or 6. But for a better experience, we suggest not larger than 3. Okay. And here and one more important thing, that's we just released a firmware which is 7.4. Wait a second. The firmware version 7.4. The 7.4. This firmware just released to the website last week. This is the latest firmware, and you can upgrade all your cameras to this firmware to have these features. No need license. You just building directly. Okay, which means if you have a camera right now in your place with this like 40, 41, or 43, you can directly upgrade to have these VCA features by free. Okay, back into the settings. Here I use the people counting as example. Similar to the motion detections, enable and effective times. We have two kinds of settings. The normal one, just like this one. Just like because this is a PDZ, camera. So we also have advanced setting, which is just bound to some preset. For example, you can set one line in preset 1 and another line in preset 2. So each preset could have a different counting. Okay, currently there are no presets. So we can here we can take an example by the normal one. You can set lines here. Later I will show the details about how to set lines, like how long or what's the angles and so on, later in troubleshooting. And enable the schedules. Schedule is important, don't forget, don't miss it. And here you can do the OSD, like you can show it. You can enable the show OSD features. The contents could be like how many out, or the capacity, like how many in and didn't go out, capacity, and some totally, and some OSD fonts of the size, color, many colors, and text positions. And like I said, you can enable the auto reset features like every day or every Friday, or and so on. And logs is about the settings, like how many in, how many out, capacity, sum, and you can do log exports here by manually, or use the auto export feature every day or specific times of every week. And you can choose export to FTP, SM, email, or the storage in a NAS or SD card. And alarm triggers, because in fact people counting don't have this feature, but if you like, you can do a threshold, like how many like send actions, alarm actions, with like motion detection, send actions when there is how many in, how many out, or the capacity or the sum. So this is the detailed settings of the people counting. And in the settings, you can see the frame rates. Of course, the frame rates, the higher frame rates will have more accurate results. But if it's more high, there will cause more burden to the CPU. So we suggest use a 10 FPS is enough, especially if you like set to 25. Then maybe only 3 VCA working at the same time. But if you like set to 10, 5 or more VCA could working. And the camera installation, you can have like angle view. Angle view means like this is This is ceiling, this is a wall, and the camera is installed like this direction, angle view, or overhead view. Overhead view, like camera is installed in the ceiling, or a horizon view, like for example, like installed in a desk. So this is not common use in desk. These three kinds of the installation. Most of the time, the angle view and the overhead view is recommended, especially for the angle view. This is the most common used angle. And horizon is not really recommended because also this is not in common usage. And also overhead, for example, for the people counting, this overhead will have the most accurate results. The overhead, and by default is angle view. And you can set object size. Object size is important because you can set different object size here. Because this object size will decide how many results this camera will output. For example, you can select a specific size like this scale. In this scale, they will output only those larger than this one. But if you put it smaller, then there will be more result. This is very useful when people counting, like two people's working in the same time, or like if you install your camera like in 10 meters or maybe 20 meters, this minimized size will be really critical. By default is 3 plus 3. But if you like, you can set to 1 plus 1 or 2 plus 2. This is web page settings. Now we will go into some troubleshooting, some tips and installation suggestions. The first one is about this troubleshooting. Let's go just one by one, okay? So basic settings I have you introduced already. Okay, then we'll go to recommend configurations, like for each VCA. The first is people counting. Okay, the installation way, like I said, angle view and overhead. This is important. Horizon, just very seldom used. And for people counting, if you set it like overhead, the result will be more accurate compared to the angle view. And for the position of the line, the most recommended is draw the line vertical to the camera. Vertical to man. What's that mean? It means if the camera is installed like this, it's installed like this direction. So the line better put like this direction. Vertical. And the reason is that to make sure because people usually will working like this one. The most important is to make the person cross the line completely. For example, here, completely. If there is just shots, like people walking in this direction, but you set lines like this, then the result will be not accurate. And don't draw the line at the edge of the image. This is important in each kind of VCA because you need to better make sure the action area in the central, because the camera need to learn from image. If you set like the line or the area in this part, then this area, if people come from this area, then the camera will have less time to learn from the image, from the environment. So make sure the area is in the central. This is important. And about the person size, better or should be 10 to 20% of the whole screen, and better not larger to occupy like 40% or 100% of the screen, because camera need to learn from image. Like 10 or 20% of all the image is a proper size. And like I said, if one person is not detected, set it like smaller, the mini size. The smaller mini size will have you more results. But of course, for example, if you do like advanced motion detection, if you set minimize like too less, there will be more false alarms, of course, because the mini size is smaller. If there is a tiny action or tiny movement in the environment, you will also maybe trigger the alarm. And if two people are detected as one, we also recommend that you reduce the minimum because the minimum size will tell the people apart. This is for people counting. And similar, the line closing, basically just same as the people counting. The line closing we recommend used in angle view. This is angle view, but more like a horizon. In fact, it's angle view. Angle view or overhead, or draw the line vertical. Make sure it's in the central. The line in the central. And region entrance and region existing. Angle view and overhead. And because this region entrance, like I said, the error should be in the central, but do not to make the error occupy all the images because camera need to learn from the image. Make sure for this kind of distance, so the camera will learn which one is outside of the image or outside of the detection area, which is inside. So when people is just like walking in this way, if you stand in here, then the camera will recognize it. And it recommends that the size object entry should not exceed like 50%, cannot be too large. Like if the people is too close, too larger, you will also not trigger alarm. Others is similar, like advanced motion detection, temper detection, loitering, human detection, angle view, overhead view, and you can set sensitivities for advanced motion detection and temper detections. And like I said, temper detections including 3 kinds of events, including scene change. For example, the camera is just have another direction by manually changed, or if somebody just blow the camera, or the camera is unfocused, it will all alarm. Temper detection. Now, other recommend configuration. Basically, this is about the size. Make sure the object size. I mean the people. For example, the size cannot be too small or too large. At least 5 to 10% of the screen. 5 to 10. And object size cannot exceed 50% of the whole screen. The camera cannot too close to the object. A typical rule of minimum size and maximum size. The minimum size is like half size of average object. For example, if the people is like this scale, you can just set it to half for the minimum size. And for maximum size cannot be larger like 130% of average objects. Cannot too large. Again, you can have the troubleshooting on our website, or you can send email to support@milesight.com, or contact your distributors to have these documents. Okay, this is the first one, the troubleshooting. And the effective range. A recommended range is within 20 meters because the resolution and also the frame rate. If the camera is like if you want to detect some people walking like in in like 1 kilometers away. That's impossible. So we suggest this is just like 20 meters in street or inside the house. They will have a better performance. 20 meters. And a very smart trick is to show the object status. I have mentioned these parts in the VCA. You can enable the human detection, this VCA, and enable the show track, like here. The human detection here. Show check. Enable the show check feature. Enable the show check feature. Okay, someone just asked a question. Let's check. Object remove minimum size. The same. Object remove, it depends on the error. Object left and remove. This is similar to the region engine existing. The object size, because there is an error, like this one. Region engine existing, the similar. It depends on error you set. You set. Like this is the object left and remove. Then the size better not too large or too small. You can larger than 2 or 3. For example, here you can have like 4, like 4 this square, 4 squares. Then it's enough. Or like this one, but cannot larger than this one, like a proper one. It depends on the error, the action error. Okay. So a principle. Let's conclude the principle. Make sure the error is in the central, not setting like this, so these parts cannot trigger. In the central, and the size cannot be too small or too large. If you want like this 1 square, it may not very accurate. You can like 4 or maybe 5, make it like central, like this scale. But if like this scale, it will too large, so the camera will also not trigger. So this is about configuration. A smart way to have, because this is really hard to tell when people come in or when people go outside, or like object maybe not the same, but you can show the trick for like people feature VCA, for example, the human detection or line closing and so on. Here I can show you in a real video. And this is a people counting configuration. You can draw the line. Set the detection time. And pay attention. This is overhead. This is overhead installation. So you can see it's very accurate. And you can see the track here. You can see after the people walking, there is a track, there is a box. In fact, you can, when you do the installation, you can just enable this feature. So the box is important. The check and the box. If the box crosses the line, then there will be counting. So it's very simple. If you enable this feature, you can tell, you can control, you can have the feeling how or when this VCA will working. It's just by the box. For example, here, if the box crosses the line, then you will just trigger. Like output, here, output +1. So this is very smart, very useful when you do the application. I mean real installations. So this is very useful when do real applications, especially for those people, I mean like human featured VCA. And here I also want to share two real examples. This over by overhead by some subway project. The line is just around here. So the camera will counting every day. This is another project. This is like horizon. Sorry, the angle view. The line is here in the middle. So for example, if now you enable the show track, you can see a box in this young guy. Poor guy. His card is invalid. So my in is 48, out is 0. Oh, okay. So the box close the line. The box close line, so it's 49. This is another time. You can see 50. So this is a VCA. Okay, this is about VCA settings. The next part is about the image. Here I concentrate image enhancement because you know the image quality. The image quality is a character of Milesight products, especially for the camera. So here I want to pay more attention to the settings. So in this part, I will not show you specific videos, but I will show you how to configure it, especially in real application. In this part, I will show you basically in two parts, the display and enhancements. And lastly, I will show you some examples. For example, the camera issues, the most frequently met camera issues. Okay, let's go to the first part, the operation part. It's in the basic and in the image. So in the display parts, there is some basic settings. Like the first is power line frequency, but I believe in Australia is 15 Hertz. So just make it default. And the day-night modes, here have like all kind of modes. The night modes, if set to night modes, then the camera will always running in night modes. If set to day modes, then the camera will always running in day mode. What's the difference between night mode and day mode? If you can check in the day-night mode settings. Basically, the difference is about IR cut and LED. When the nighttime IR cut is off, because in the nighttime the light is not enough, so you can off the night mode, and most of the time the LED is on, because at night the same. In the nighttime the light is not enough. And the most important, the color at nighttime is black and white. Black and white, because the color, you can make it the color into like black and white to have a more clear image. And the daytime, the OLED, including IR or YLED, off. And the IR cut on. The IR cut on in the daytime. It will filter out the IR, the red color, infrared color. So in the daytime, the IR cut should be on, and the color, of course, color mode is color. And by default is auto mode, because mostly the camera have an IR light sensor. IR light sensor. It will sense the environment light to decide when this camera should change to day or night mode. And of course, you can customize the specific time, like when the night or when the day starts. And smart IR. Smart IR is also a very good feature, especially in the nighttime. By default, it's auto, but if you like, you can customize. For example, if you want to zoom into like maximum time, and you can, again, by default, this is auto option. But if you like, you can customize like far view IRL level. You can set it to the highest level. And similar, you can set the smaller time, the near view IR LED to a less IR intense. This is about the smart IR. And also YLED, because this is a PDZ bullet, so you can also control the YLED level, how many brights, how weak the bright it is. And another option is day-night switch refocus. This is available in some models. For example, in this model, to provide a better experience, especially for the focus feature, you can have a on for this refocus, because at night the light frequency is different compared to the daytime, especially when you enable IR LED. So by default, this feature is on to have the most clear image both in the day or nighttime. And of course, night or outdoor indoor mode. This is a slight difference, especially when working on WDR or some other features, some other enhancement feature, the outdoor indoor mode. And the corridor mode. This is a feature for currently you can see this image is about 69. But in some environments, like in corridor, I mean in real corridor, you can have a 9:16 image. For example, clockwise 90 degree. So you can see the image is 9:60 ratio. This is about corridor mode. The ratio will be different. Now back to 16:9. And image rotation, this is another feature similar to corridor, but it will just rotate the image. For example, now I rotate 180. You can see this upside down. You see the image is upside down. This is very useful, especially for those, for example, the dome. Usually the dome is installed in the ceiling. But if you want to install in a desk, so you can enable this image rotation feature. And you can also flip. Flip is like a mirror. Flip. You can flip the right to the left, left to the right. And last feature, keep correct as a special ratio. This is not so important because this is a feature only available in some models. When the camera is setting to 4 megapixel or the full HD, the aspect ratio is different. Like this is 16:9, but this is maybe 4:3, aspect ratio 4:3. So there may be not same angle of view. You can enable this to keep the correct one, like 16:9 and the 4:3. But the angle of view, like this part, may be a different shot. For example, if you cut this 16:9 and enable this feature, then it will be like this. for real 4:3 aspect ratio. By default, this is off, so the field of view, I mean, this is not cut. This is not cut. The real image is not cut. I think you can check by yourself. It's very easy when you do a snapshot and do a comparison. Okay, this is about display. Then we will go to the enhancement. The first is IR balance mode. In fact, this is the smart IR, the first generation, so it only have on and off feature. And the white balance, this is a common feature. For example, if you are in a warm light lamp, so you can enable this feature to have a better performance. And what's more, you can control the red gain level or blue gain level by manually. Have many environments. You can do a schedule for specific light environments. And the reduce motion blur, this is a new feature just released last year. This is very useful, especially in LPR application. I will have you more introducing about LPR. So when this feature is on, you can have a different level for the blur. So there will be less blur when there is a motion object. Yeah, there is a video. Let's check about this video. So this is off, this is on. You can see so you can see this is the blur off. You can hardly see the face of the of this man, and when the blur is on, you can see clearly about every details of this moving object. Once again, this is when near view. You can see the bicycle is really electronic bicycle is really fast when it come close to camera. So if you enable this feature, there will be more details. This is really useful in LPR applications. And again, all this feature is available in all models. In all sensors. Basically, all our sensors Sony, so it's the same. This feature will be available in all our models. And next one is default mode. Yeah, just like the feature name. Let's show it in a real project in Iran country. This is also a common feature in all Milesight camera. This is default off, which means it's real time. This is in some factory. You can see the dust is everywhere, especially in the morning. The sun just shines. Dust. And this is default on. You can see clearly the details of this factory when the default is on. This is off and this is on. Okay, and the next enhancement is digital image stabilization. This is very useful in some like transportation in vehicle project, like in bus. You can install our cameras in a bus or in some bridge, a bridge. Enable this feature so when the camera shaking, like in bus or in some applications, there will be less shaking in image. And exposure mode, this is like advanced mode. This only about the exposure. By default is auto. But if you set it as a manual, like how many exposure time, like a manual mode of the exposure. If you fix like for example 1, so the shutter time will keep like 1. So now exposure time is quite large, so the image is totally bright, overexposed. This is used in some real professional projects, for example in LPR or in some like special monitoring. They need special exposure time. You can set it here. Okay, then go to the most important, the BLC, WDR, HLC. This is about some enhancement in image itself. So this 1, 2, 3 is like mutual exclusive. At one time, you can select one mode. So here we have several modes, like single modes. For example, for 24 hours, I just want to working in BLC, like BLC. BLC is a feature like focus. If I want to focus on these parts, inclusive, and focus on these parts, and you will see this dark part is now clear, but the other part is now just overexposed. Or you want to see exclusive parts, then you will see this part is dark and the other part is clear. And if you enable the WDR, you can see the dark and the windows are both clear now. The WDR and HLC is basically for highlight like lamp. Like if there in the environment there is a very strong light source, you can enable this mode. So this 3 is mutual exclusive. One time just one mode. You can select this working in the single modes or day-night mode. For example, you can set BLC, WDR, HLC, config it, and then you select like in the daytime I want it's WDR, and in nighttime I want it running in HLC. Or in schedule modes, you can configure the WDR, BLC highlight composite, and set a schedule for it. Like in some specifically running like in WDR, in HLC, and so on. So these three modes for 3 different enhancements. Okay, and let's check some questions. As would you ask, what's the best exposure for LPR at night? What's the best exposure for LPR at night? Okay, because LPR is quite lots of information, so I will introduce about this in later parts. I will introduce in 3 slides later, especially for night settings. We have a special LPR night view settings. Okay. So this is for the enhancements, display and enhancements part of this slides. Okay, now just go to the troubleshooting part. Here I present 3 most commonly meet questions. For example, in this image, the image is purple. It highly likely is the IR card issue. For example, in this one, this color mode, I mean the day mode, but the IR card is like off, or the IR card is broken. Then you have like purple or red color, because right now the IR card is faulty, so the IR is in image. You can check by here, image, and day-night mode. Daylight mode. Now it's in day mode, which is color mode. If I off the IR card, you'll see the image is purple right now. So if you have this issue in installation, you can check IR cards, or if this is on the IR card is on status but still have this feature, then it may be an IR card hardware issue. The second one is the ghost shadow, the ghost shadow. There's a man walking. We can see this in a video. You can see people just walking, but you can hardly see the image, just like ghost. Very mystery. So why have this? There is a cat. Can you see? There's a cat walking. A magical cat walking into the image. Magical cats. So this is because of the dynamic noisy reduction. Because we have a feature in the live view. In the live view, this 3D DNR. I can show you in the camera, which is near me. 3D dynamic noisy reduction. So if currently you can see this is real time. This is my hand. This is real time. By default is 50%, but if you increase like 100%, you will see this ghost. So make sure if you have this kind of issue, you can just make it like 50 or 60% less. And third one is the blur image. Blur image like this one. This is in a garage, but you can see there is something like dust in the image. You can hardly recognize the car or the details of this goods. This is because of reflection of the IR. It may be by the wall or other thing block the IR back into the. For example, this is a camera. And this is the angle view. So if the IR goes in this direction, and then the wall is too close, for example, there's a block, the IR will go back into the camera lens. So in the camera lens, you will see the dirty, see the dust to block these things. So you can check if you have this issue. You can check firstly if there is a block in the environment, or you can check in the camera itself. For example, this is a mini bullet. Because this shelter you can just manually push it a little back or forwards. If it's too forwards, the LED maybe block, maybe reflect back into the IR lens. So if you have this issue, you can just check if the IR is reflected or not. Okay, this is three common troubleshootings when in real project full image. Okay, the next part is about the LPR, the LPR cameras. This is the introduction of our LPR camera, including these 5 models, and of course accuracy rates larger than 50%, 120 kilometers, and some very high performance like 120 frame rates, high frame rates, ultra low light, secret WDR, high quality blur, smart IR to HLC, and so on. And here I want to introduce the latest firmware, the firmware of 74. You can find in our website. You can find in our website and download in your Okay. In our website, we support the software user manual edition and also the firmware download. You can download it here. The latest is 74. 74. In this firmware, there is 4 major upgradation for the LPR camera. For LPR camera, there's 3 optimized. For example, the live view, we add LPR live view mode. And LPR smart search. Smart search, you can search it on the camera side for the snapshot or for the video. And LPR night view settings, we have a special night view settings. You can enable it. So we will just provide you the best recommended night settings. You can just enable it, and there's several levels. You can just select levels if you like to have the best night view performance, the exposure time, the gain level, and so on. And we support LPR format rule. For example, if you have in your country you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like these 5 parts of LPR, and maybe the first part is just number. So you can customize for the first two number, but first 2 plates only the character, no numbers will be output to increase the accuracy of the LPR recognition. For this part, I will help you a real operations from general settings, list management, black white list, and also list for new features. Okay, so now go into the web page. Firstly, introduce about the new LPR mode in this corner. In this corner, you will see that there is LPR mode. If you enable it, you will see the results, the snapshot of whole image, the snapshot of the LPR, and some logs. Wait a second, let me show you some real image. Like here, you can see the whole image in these parts, and this is snapshot of this camera. And this is some logs. And now I will concentrate on the settings, all the settings here. Firstly, you need to enable the LPR license. I will show you from the configuration. To recognize and to record these whole procedures. So in the first part, you will see there is LPR night mode. You can select it's disable or not. If you not enable these parts, then it will just go into the day-night mode settings as here. But if you enable it, the night mode will be LPR night mode. So this is from our image team have studied a lot of real environments. So this is have the best settings. You can just enable it and leave it, like when this night mode start or end, just leave it for. If you can hardly recognize, you can even increase the night level. This is about some shutter times levels and also some background settings. So this is the LPR9 mode. Strongly recommended to enable it, especially if you want to use in outdoor environments. Outdoor environment, this is very useful. And then second part is set LPR region. You can set different length. For example, two lengths at the same time to recognize the car license plate, or one at the same time. And effective time, of course. And then go to the settings. Some settings I will have you introduction. The first is detecting trigger, always or by input. For input, always it will always trigger. But if, for example, this is a pro bullet, you can select only to trigger this LPR by allowing inputs. For example, you can use third-party inputs and have a signal. Then the camera will recognize the car license. And confidence level, by default is 4, but if you have more confidence, like in 5 or 8, then there will be much less result output. For example, if you put the camera in some glass, you are facing a glass, you know, glass, there may be many details, the camera maybe have many false results, so you can increase the confidence level. Like 8, then the camera will have less results, faulty results, when the environment is really complicated. And third is repeat plate check time. By default is 0. What this mean? For example, if one car just stop here, and there will be the same license always trigger. So you can select what is the next time, what is the interval time for the same license plate. This is very useful in some traffic lights. For example, in 15 seconds, the same license will not trigger again. By default is 0, but 0 means 1 second. Every 1 second there will be results, output. And this is license plate 0 format. This is something I just mentioned on this part, LPR format rule. You can see, for example, in here, five numbers. For example, if your country have 5 numbers car license, you can customize. But the star means all outputs, and you can like A111. Then the camera will output only the correct numbers, like FA 345. This is a new feature. License plate 0 format. And other features, for example, the direction, detection region, like the lane 1 or lane 2, or the car is close or go away. And region is not supported in Australian country currently. So in your firmware, this region is not available. And last one is LPR message post setting. This is for third-party integration. For example, because of costly this LPR is not on Vive protocol. This is universal same also for other manufacturers. So for Milesight, we provide you 3 kinds of integration. The RTSP, TCP, and HTTP ways. We support a full integration CGI for third-party development. You can ask Milesight support to have the detailed document for integration. Okay, the second part is the list management. You can manage the blacklist, whitelist, or visitor list. What is list, blacklist, whitelist, and visitor list? This is some modes. For example, for specific car, you want specific actions. For example, for blacklist cards, you don't want to have like records, or for black part, you want to record the video, the snapshot, or play audio, or maybe open the gateways or close the gateways. You can customize on here. So outputs like the gateway control. And the whitelist, you may want to another actions. For example, you don't want to record, or you just want to directly open the gateways and so on. And for wisdom mode, you can also do specific setting. Wisdom mode means if the camera recognizes there is a car license, like car detection, then the gates will just open or do specific settings. So there are 3 kinds of modes. And you can management all here. So you can customize blacklist or whitelist, in this part. Now, of course, because there are many licenses, you can just select to upload or export. In the search you can export, and in the next time you can also import back into the list management. And here I enable just visitor mode, which means once the camera detect the license, it will just, for example, here I select save into storage, snapshot, and record. So in the live view, if there is a car, you see this DB6007, they will be recognized as visitor, and you can check the picture, and you can check the video in the smart search page. You can see the image, the videos, and you can do exports, or of course we support auto export, like every day or every week, specific time of every week. Save into FTP server, or send to email, or send to the storage. So this is some settings, very basic settings, from the license recognition settings to the list, the action, the blacklist, whitelist, or visitor list. List management and search. And this search is also a new feature. This feature will allow the camera to more stand alone. For example, if you insert, because in this part I just select, save into storage. So this camera, if there is a SD card or this camera is connected to NAS, you can easily realize the car license recognition by single camera. I mean, from recognition to do control, for example, the gateway control, or to do the search, to do the export, everything. A standalone mild side LPR solution. Live view LPR format, smart search, and LPR live view mode. And this is 3 new features on this 74 firmware. Okay, this is the first part about the operations, new firmware and operations. Now we will go to some tips, basically some installation suggestions. For example, the first one, of course, the most recognized environment is to install the camera in front of the vehicle, just like this one. This will have the most accurate result, of course. But if you are installed in like outdoor, I mean in real project, not parking lot, project you can install in like some subway. So you need to have some installation tips. For example, if the vehicle, the camera is shooting like angle view, the vertical angle better less than 30 degrees, and the horizon angle more than if it's in the horizon, in the same horizon, less than 30. But if there is a tilt, the car license is a tilt, the angle better less than 5 degree, 5 degree. Okay, 30, 35. And the most important, the optimal recognized license plate interval of license with 120 and 150 pixel. What's this mean? In here we have a pixel. I'm not sure if you can see the pixel here. There is a width 800. This is 800 pixel. So for Milesight LPR recognition, the pixel better, the suggestion pixel better between 120 and 150. Too large may also cannot recognize the car license. Please note that. If too close, like the camera is too close, then it may be also not recognize the results. Too small, of course, they will not recognize. A 120 and the 150 is a recommend pixel. I mean the width, this width. So basically, the one just I showed in the. So like this width, 100, around 120 and 50 will be reasonable. So this is the LPR part, including the new feature, the real operation, and the installation suggestions. Okay, then go to the fisheye parts, fisheye camera parts. This is Milesight fisheye, including 5 megapixel to 12 megapixel camera, and provides 360 degree of view. And here I want to concentrate on these two parts, the major part, the bundle string and the multi-string. This is two major different mode of fisheye, Milesight fisheye camera. And the last one is the client-side DeWalt, a software DeWalt. Okay, let's go firstly into the web page. And again, you can see demos. If you like, if you don't have Milesight product, you can see the demos from our website, including the camera, the NVR, the PDZ, the PDZ bullet, PD speed dome, and fisheye. This is a demo of this string info. You can hide it. So in this part, there is onboard developing. Of course, this developing is from camera insights, which is front end, which means this developing is just directly from the CPU of camera. It will cost no developing resources of the PC, my PC, for developing. No. And another part is client-side developing. Client-side developing. This is about the PC developing. Like this, you can You can customize whatever strings you like. So what's the difference between onboard developing and client-side developing? Onboard developing is more like developing mode which the camera can provide. So once it's customized, for example, 103R, once this is defined, once it's selected for a third party, for example, the MAR, the string will be always like 103R. You cannot customize. But it will has less CPU burden to the MAR or to the VMS because the developing is already proceeded in the camera side. And on the contrast, if you are using the client-side developing, the camera will just provide the original view to the third party. For example, here, the camera will only provide this original view to this PC. Now I open this camera with my PC. So if we are using this client side, you can have many modes as you like, because this is realized by the software of my PC, of my web page. So advantage of this is you can just record the original one. And when playback, you can select whatever you like modes. For example, if you record in original and you can have a playback by 103R or 4R, 4 region, or 1 panoramic, and so on. So it's more flexible, but will cause burden to the client-side CPU. For onboard, it just provides streams already developed. And this is the client-side developing. Camera provide original stream for the client-side developing, and client-side devices, for example, PC or MAR or the VMS will provide display mode, more flexible and immersed to have an immersion user experience. And here in the fisheye, there is several. This is PDOSD. You can select on our, for example, the OSD here. You can see the zoom. You can see the zoom OSD, or you can even do the patrol or auto checking, whatever you like for this camera. You can do the auto checking or presets for different region view, and do the OSD. You can enable OSD for them. And next part is like the developing configuration. The first part is field of view. This may be complicated, but in fact it's very simple. In normal, original view larger, all view larger. You know, in original there is a view, a very perfect circle. In fact, this is not original. If you enable original, the view will be larger, but there may be blur in the in other parts, in the edge part. But if you don't mind some blur, you can enable a larger view, which may be more than 360 larger view. And for transfer modes, this most in we provide the bundle string and the multi-string. What is bundle string? Bundle string means that in this camera, these 4 images will be bundled as one string, like main string and substring. So here for this image, if you select like bundle string. So this image will be like for region, just like for cameras. But these 4 cameras is in one same primary string. And also when you switch to a secondary string, you can also see this 4 string. So the advantage of this mode is that it will have a very good compatibility for just like regular camera, because it have main string and substring, and what's more, the main and substring, the image contents are exactly the same. This is a bundle string. But so with bundle string, in the basic setting, you will see just 2 string, primary string and secondary string. Whatever mode, there are only 2 string, primary string and secondary string, and the content is exactly the same for primary and secondary. And multi-string is different compared to the bundle string. Multi-string means like here you can hardly see main string or substring, because currently the camera will provide 4 strings, and the 4th string is totally different. There are no main string, substring, same content, because currently the camera is just like 4 cameras, and it will provide the 4 different content of view. So here in the settings, you will see, in the video settings, you will see 1, 2, 3, 4. Different modes have different channel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can customize different resolution for different channels, different screens. So this is fisheye mode. The first is the bundle, which have a better compatibility to exist NVR or VMS, because you can configure, for example, you can configure locally in the camera firstly, and then you can directly apply into the NVR. For the multi-string, this maybe needs some integration with the third-party VMS to have a better compatible. So this is for the fisheye, 2 strings, 2 bundle, 2 modes, transfer modes, basically for third-party integration. And by default, we suggest using bundle string. And currently, we support the app. Tomorrow, we will have another training about CMS, NVR, and the app. I will introduce about the client-side developing on the backend. Okay, this is about the fisheye part. And lastly, I will introduce you some troubleshootings. Very frequently asked troubleshootings for like network settings or storage settings. The first part is the port forwards. For Milesight camera, 3 ports must be forwarded. The HTTP, RTSP, and playback ports. HTTP, of course, is the web access, the HTTP access. But in Milesight, the on-view port also integrated into the HTTP. So in fact, here HTTP and on-view port is the same. You can just directly customize in the network settings, and here HTTP. This is also same on-view port. And then RTSP. RTSP is about the string. This is most important because when you're connecting, you need the string. So you also need to forward this string, RTSP. And lastly, this is optional. If you like to connect the playback, because not every camera have SD card, But if you like to play back the SD card contents, you need to also forward this playback port. So in conclusion, if you like to do a port forwarding for this camera, you must at least forward HTTP, which is also on view, HTTP port and the RTSP port, these two ports. And another note is that if not connecting in third-party VMS, if you just want to connect from IPC web page, only for this web page, Milesight web page, you can only do the HTTP because we have such experience. Many people just forget to do the RTSP. So for Milesight's web page, you can only forward HTTP. We will also transfer the RTSP by this HTTP. So this is an advanced feature only available in Milesight web page. And make sure the internal and external ports are in the same number, because in many projects, some people don't like to customize. HTTP ports. So when he do the port forwarding, the external port may be A0, but internal still A0. Strongly suggest that customize the internal and the forward to same port number. For example, internal A0, and the forward to external port also A0. This will have less trouble. It will be really easy for troubleshooting. And I'm not sure if you know details of the troubleshooting. So here I present a troubleshooting by TP-Link. For camera STP80, RTSP 554, playback port 555. So here is an example of the TP-Link. Here the example IP of IP camera is this. And this router LAN IP gateway, and this public IP of the gateway. So firstly, customize HTTP port A0, and logging the router. In the router, maybe different router have different name for this. Some may be virtual server, some may be port forwarding or NAT. Logging into it, add rule. Server port, for example, here I want to forward this HTTP port A0A1. So I input the A0A1 here, and the camera address and the save. Then this camera will be forwarded the HTTP, and in the same rule you can do for RTSP and playback. This is one mode. Another mode is DMZ. DMZ mode is like exposure mode. He will expose all the ports of your camera into public IP. But of course, this is not safe because it will expose all the ports. You can directly enable this DMZ mode and put your camera IP here. And for here, because the HTTP port I just customized, so when you access it, you can directly access it like public IP and the specific port. This is adding the camera from the app. So this is the port forwarding. The second one is the Milesight DDoS, because after the port forwarding, the public IP still is number. It's really hard to recognize or to log in. So here we present another way, a DDoS way. For Milesight, we provide a free Milesight DDoS. You can directly input the external ports of HTTP, RTSP, and playback ports here. So next time you can directly log into this part. This is the mark of your camera, last 6 parts of your camera. So you can directly log into this address without input the HTTP port, whatever port. But firstly, you need to do port forwarding, or the camera will not find you. So safe, no need to like other. You need to apply for account, and maybe pay some fees manually, annually, or something like that. For multi-DNS, you can directly apply and log in. Then you will work. This is for remote connect. And last part will be about the storage. Let's take the LPR camera for example. Now I add SD card and also the NAS. NAS we have NFS, which is mostly used in like Synology and so on. And also have Samba. Samba is for Windows NAS. So we support both. You can add here for record or for FTP or for snapshots. Sorry, FTP, not FTP. For snapshot purpose or record purpose. And you can select is recycling or pre-record maybe from 0 to 10 seconds before the action really happens. And snapshot and explore. We have a built-in explorer for the storage, so you can check or backup all the results. And here I want to concentrate on the snapshot because last time you have asked something about the time-lapse video, how to do it. Here I provide an example. For example, you can enable a timing snapshot in the storage snapshot settings. You can have an interval, like 1 hour, 1 day, 1 snapshot, or 1 milliseconds, or every second, every minute, every hours, and save it into storage. You can add time suffix, which is have a time in the file, or only one overwrite, like eventually they will have only one snapshot. This will have a several snapshots. And or FTP. For other clients, mostly of them are using FTP, but of course you can use NAS or SD card. And select the schedule. So every day or every hour there will be one snapshot sent to SD card, NAS, or FTP. And then you can combine these snapshots into labs. This is another troubleshooting. It's an example of how to do time lapse by Milesight camera and third-party software. Here we use a third-party software called LR time lapse software. So firstly, you can try to upload to FTP or NAS or SD cards you like, and set the interval, set the effection time. Then you will see after like 1 month or half year, you will have a lot of the images, and then you can have the image combined then into the video. The details is you can check into this video. You can select different frame rates or speeds and so on, resolution and so on, to combine a real time lapse. Here is a video about how we make this. Maybe don't have voice. This is a video taken like 5 years ago by myself. This is someplace around our office. This is our Xiamen city. And this is the day. And this is the day before typhoon. You know, our city is opposite to Taiwan. So you can see in the morning it's sunny. And you can see in the noon there is more clouds. And in the afternoon, more cloudy. This is typhoon day before the typhoon really come. And in the afternoon, you can see it's raining. Our city is a tourist city. And if you have time, you can visit our city by yourself. Very beautiful city. So it's raining, and at night it's raining hardly. Typhoon coming. Okay, so this is all for today's training.